He wore glasses with the glass knocked out. He smiled and showed a mouth full of gold. He told the world he caught a bad sickness twice, and he laughed about it. He was the wildest soul in the greatest hip-hop group of all time. But here is the deal. He was not just a loose cannon. He was a genius hiding behind a mask. He was the Drunken Master. He was the father to a style that no one else could touch. Picture this. The year's 1993. The radio stations tried to ban his crew, but the fans demanded the music. They loved the raw energy. They loved the danger. And right in the middle of the storm stood a man who did not care what you thought. He was kind. He was generous. He was smart. But the price of fame is high. The demons are real. And the end of the road came way too soon. The silence was louder than the applause. Who was the man behind the madness? Why did the dirtiest player in the game leave us so young? This is the story of Russell Jones. The story begins in the borough of Brooklyn. The date was November 15th, 1968. The winds were cold, but the streets were hot. A child named Russell Jones was born into a full house. He was not an only child. He was one of 6. 3 boys and 3 girls crowded into the home. It was loud. It was busy. You had to fight to be heard. You had to shine to be seen. Russell learned early that life does not give you handouts. You have to take what is yours. But here is the deal. Russell Jones was not just a loud kid from the block. He was a thinker. He observed everything. He watched the way people walked. He listened to the way they talked. He soaked up the energy of New York City like a sponge. Fast forward a few years, the boy became a man, and the man became a myth. He joined forces with a family of lyrical swordsmen. The world knows them as the Wu-Tang Clan. Let me list the roster for you. It sounds like an army. RZA, GZA, Inspector Deck, Raekwon the Chef, U-God, Ghostface, Killer, Method Man, Master Killer, Capadonna. This was not just a group. It was a movement. But the road was not paved with gold. It was paved with broken glass. Picture this. The radio stations in New York did not want to play their songs. Hot 97 tried to ban the music. They said it was too rough. They said it was too street. They wanted polished pop songs. They did not want the grit of the Wu, but you cannot stop an earthquake by closing your eyes. The people demanded the music. It spread like wildfire. It wasn't just in the hood. It crossed the ocean. Fans in Europe were screaming for the Wu. White fans in the suburbs were buying the tapes. The Clan was like the Beatles. They were undeniable. They even went on tour with a huge rock group called Rage Against the Machine. Imagine the sound of that tour. Heavy guitars, heavy beats, thousands of people jumping until the floor shook. And right at the front of this army stood Russell. But he wasn't Russell anymore. He had a list of names as long as his rap sheet. He was Ason Unique. He was Osiris. He was Big Baby Jesus. He was Dirt McGirt. But the name that stuck was the Old Dirty Bastard. Why that name? He said there was no father to his style. He created it from nothing. It belonged only to him. He was the Drunken Master. He moved like water. You could not predict him. He would wear glasses with no lenses in the frames. He would braid his hair into wild spikes. He stood on stage with gold teeth shining under the spotlight. He looked you in the eye and told you the truth, even when it was ugly. He told the world he caught a bad disease, gonorrhea. He caught it twice. He did not hide his head in shame. He laughed about it. He put it on the record. Most people hide their flaws. Dirty put his flaws on a billboard. But wait, It gets deeper. People looked at the antics and they saw a clown. They saw a loose cannon. They saw a wild card. They thought he was out of control. They were wrong. Brother Jay from the group X Clan knew the real story. He said Dirty was smart. He said Dirty was sharp. Brother Jay revealed that Dirty actually dumbed down his style to fit into the Wu-Tang Clan. He lowered his level so the group could shine. He played the fool, but he was the wisest man in the room. In almost every interview, he dropped gems. He kicked knowledge. You just had to look past the gold teeth. You had to listen past the shouting. He was also kind. People who knew him best said he had one of the most generous souls on earth. He would give you the shirt off his back. He was a rock star, but he never thought he was better than you. He was a paradox. He was the dirtiest player in the game, but he had a clean heart. He was a genius playing a madman, but the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows. Russell Jones was riding a tiger. The fame was huge. The love was worldwide, but the pressure was building. He didn't like being told what to do. He marched to his own beat. And when you walk alone, sometimes you walk off the edge. The world saw the laughter. They saw the jokes, but they did not see the weight he was carrying. He was young. He was talented. He was a father to a style that changed history, but the clock was ticking. What happens when the Drunken Master can no longer dodge the blows? What happens when the party stops and the silence sets in? The higher you fly, the harder you fall. And Russell was flying higher than anyone else. You have to understand the scale of this empire. We are not just talking about a rap group. We are talking about a global force. People often compare hip-hop groups to family. But the Wu-Tang Clan was not just a family. It was an army. Let me count the soldiers for you. You had RZA, GZA, Method Man, Raekwon, Ghostface, Inspector Deck, U-God, Master Killer, Capadonna. But wait, the list goes deeper. You had the Sons of Man, you had Shaheem, you had the Kill Army, you had the Black Knights of the North Star, you had the Royal Family, you had the Wu Syndicate. The roster was endless. It was a machine. And at the peak of their power, they were bigger than hip-hop. Here's the deal. People started calling them the Beatles of rap. That is a heavy title. You do not get that title by accident. You get it by changing the world. Hot 97 tried to stop them. The radio stations in New York thought they could ban the music. They thought they could silence the grit. But gravity pulls hardest. The music was too strong. It bypassed the gatekeepers. It went straight to the people. And the people were hungry. They built a cult following. But this was not just in Brooklyn. This was not just in the projects. This was worldwide. Picture this. The Klan travels overseas. They step off the plane in Europe. They look out at the crowd. And what do they see? They see thousands of white fans screaming the lyrics. They see people who do not look like them and do not live like them, reciting every verse. It was a wake-up call. It proved that the raw energy of the street breaks down every barrier. It proved that even people with hate in their hearts, racists and critics, could not resist the sound of the Wu. They loved the street hip-hop. They respected the craft. The music was the universal language. And then they took it to the next level. They went on tour with a rock group, but not just any rock group. They hit the road with Rage Against the Machine. Imagine the energy in those arenas. You have the heavy metal guitars screaming. You have the boom bap drums rattling your chest. You have thousands of bodies slamming into each other. It was chaos. It was beautiful. And right in the eye of that hurricane stood Russell Jones. He was the old dirty bastard, and he was the star of the show. The transcript tells us the truth. He was a real rock star. No one else in history was like him. He was the wild card. He was the loose cannon. When he grabbed the microphone, you held your breath. You never knew what he was going to say. You never knew what he was going to do. He had a style with no father. He was a singular force of nature. But here is the secret that most people missed. While the crowds were cheering for the madman, they were watching a genius at work. Dirty was intelligent. He was sharp. Brother Jay from the group X Clan broke it down. He said Dirty actually dumbed down his style when he joined the Wu-Tang Clan. He simplified his flow. He played the role of the jester so the group could conquer the world. He was kicking knowledge in every interview, but you had to pay close attention. You had to listen past the jokes. You had to look past the missing lens in his glasses. He was playing 4D chess while everyone else was playing checkers. And beneath the fame, beneath the Dirt McGirt persona, he was kind. The people who really knew him described him as one of the most generous souls on earth. He gave of himself. He shared his light. He did not let the money turn his heart into stone. He was a drunken master on the stage, but he was a brother in the street. He had the world in the palm of his hand. He had the adoring fans in Europe. He had the respect of the streets in New York. He had the gold. He had the legacy. He was young. He was at the top of the mountain, but the air is thin at the top. The man who said he had no shame was hiding a heavy burden. The man who laughed at his own pain was walking a dangerous line. We look back now and we wonder, what would Dirty be doing today? If he had social media, he would be the king of the internet. The world was built for a personality like his. But we will never know, because tragedy does not care about your fame. It does not care about your tours. It does not care that you are the most unique rapper in history. The fall was coming, and it was going to break hearts all over the world. While the world saw a smile, the shadows were growing. The silence was about to become louder than the applause. We have to talk about the darkness. You cannot have a light that bright without burning out the bulb. Old Dirty Bastard was the spark that started the fire. But fire is dangerous. If you do not control it, it consumes everything in its path. The narrator of this story said it best. Dirty was a loose cannon. He was the wild card. When you see a man acting wild on stage, you think it is a show. You think it is a performance. You think he takes off the costume when he goes home. But here is the hard truth. For Russell Jones, there was no costume. The mask was his face. He lived his life with zero brakes. He drove at full speed, even when the road was ending. Picture the man. He stood in front of the world and told them his darkest secrets. He did not hide his shame. In fact, he had no shame. He told the reporters he caught a bad sickness. He caught gonorrhea. But he didn't just catch it once. He caught it twice. Most men would take that secret to the grave. Most men would hide their face. Not Dirty. He laughed about it. He treated a serious health issue like a joke. He wore his scars like medals. This was the danger of his style. He did not care about consequences. He lived in the moment, and when you live only for today, you often sacrifice your tomorrow. But wait, it gets deeper. He had a trait that is fatal for a superstar. The transcript tells us the plain truth. He did not like to be told what to do. You can survive in the music business if you play the game. You have to listen to the managers. You have to listen to the labels. You have to follow the rules of the road. Russell Jones refused. He was a rebel in a world of suits and ties. He marched to a drum that only he could hear. And when you refuse to listen, you end up walking alone. The tragedy is not just that he died. The tragedy is what we lost when he left. Think about the mind we lost. Remember what Brother Jay said. Dirty was not crazy. He was calculating. He was intelligent. He dumbed down his style to let the others shine. That means we never got to see his full potential. We saw the clown, but we missed the king. We saw the drunken master, but we missed the scholar. He took that genius to the grave. And he was so young, the transcript repeats it because it hurts. He was so young. He had decades of life left to live. He had thousands of verses left to write. He had millions of people left to inspire. But the ride stopped short. The way he went out, the narrator says, it was so tragic. It leaves us with a heavy question, a question that haunts every fan of the Wu-Tang Clan. What if? Imagine if Russell Jones was alive today. The world has changed. We live in the age of the internet. We live in the age of viral videos. The narrator paints a picture of this alternate reality. If he had access to social media, Dirty would be wild. Think about it. Old Dirty Bastard was the original viral star before the internet existed. He did things on live television that broke the mold. He said things in interviews that stopped the presses. If he had Instagram, if he had TikTok, if he had Twitter, he would have been the biggest star on the planet. The world finally caught up to his style. The world is finally ready for the raw, unfiltered truth that he served up every single day. But he is not here to see it. He missed the era that was made for him. And that is the bitter pill we have to swallow. The silence is heavy. The Wu-Tang Clan is a family. They are a brotherhood. RZA, Jeezy, Method Man, Raekwon. They are all legends. But there's a hole in the formation. When they stand on stage now, there is a gap. You can feel the missing energy. You can hear the silence where the madness used to be. The narrator speaks for all of us when he says, I truly miss the guy. It is not just about the music. It is about the spirit. People describe him as one of the kindest souls on earth. Picture that. The man who screamed into the microphone. The man with the gold teeth and the crazy braids. The man who scared the radio stations. Underneath it all, he was gentle. He was generous. He was a sweet soul lost in a hard world. He gave everything he had to the fans. He gave his energy. He gave his privacy. He gave his health. And in the end, he gave his life. The list of his names is long. Ason, Unique, Osiris, Big Baby Jesus, Dirt McGirt. But there is only one description that matters now. Gone. There will never be another rapper like him in hip-hop history. The mold was broken the day he was born, and the pieces were shattered the day he died. No one has come close to imitating his style. You can try to copy the flow. You can try to wear the braids. You can try to act wild. But you cannot fake the soul. He was a real rock star. He was the energy that Rage Against the Machine could not even match. He was the grit that Hot 97 could not ban. He was the old dirty bastard, and his story is a warning. It is a warning that talent is not enough. It is a warning that intelligence is not enough. You can be the smartest man in the room. You can be the drunken master. You can be the father to a style with no father. But if you fly too close to the sun, you will fall. Russell Jones flew higher than anyone. He burned brighter than anyone. And now all we have are the echoes. We have the records. We have the footage. We have the memories of a man who changed the world with a microphone and a missing lens in his glasses. The show is over. The curtain has fallen. But the legend of the dirtiest player in the game will live forever. Because, as the man said, Wu-Tang is for the children, and Russell Jones will always be the favorite son. The news hit the streets like a physical blow. It was not just a headline on a screen. It was a shockwave. Russell Jones was gone. The old dirty bastard had taken his final bow, and immediately the machine started to turn. Here is the ugly truth about fame in America. When you are alive, the cameras love the chaos. They love the danger. They zoom in on the gold teeth. They replay the wild moments. They turn a human being into a cartoon character. The media painted him as a train wreck. They called him a loose cannon. They called him a wild card. They listed his arrests like they were listing his hit songs. They sold newspapers with his mugshot. They boosted their ratings with his tragedies. But they missed the man. While the news anchors talked about his rap sheet, the people who really knew him told a different story. They did not talk about the Dirt McGirt persona. They talked about Russell. Brother Jay from X-Clan set the record straight. He told the world that Dirty was a genius. He explained that the wild behavior was a choice. It was a strategy. Dirty dumbed down his style to fit the group. He played the fool so the Wu-Tang Clan could shine. He was the smartest man in the room, hiding behind a mask of madness. But the media does not sell papers with stories about kindness. They sell papers with scandal. They ignored the fact that he was a generous soul. They ignored the friends who said he would give you his last dollar. They ignored the kicking knowledge he did in his interviews. They only saw the clown. They did not see the king. But here is the deal. The fans knew the truth. The reaction from the public was not just sadness. It was a deep, aching loss. You have to remember the reach of this man. It was not just the kids in Brooklyn who mourned. It was the entire globe. The transcript tells us something powerful. The Wu-Tang Clan had a cult following. They had fans in Europe who did not speak the same slang. They had white fans from overseas who lived worlds away from the projects. The narrator says something profound. He realized that white people and other races love street hip-hop music. That is the power of ODB. He was so raw, so real, and so undeniable that he broke through hate. He made people love him simply by being himself. He went on tour with Rage Against the Machine. He stood in front of rock and roll fans. He won them over. When he died, that bridge collapsed. The silence that followed was deafening. The Wu-Tang Clan was the greatest hip-hop group of all time. They were an army. They were like the Beatles. But you cannot lose a member like ODB and stay the same. RZA lost a cousin. The group lost their spark. You can replace a drummer. You can replace a guitarist. You cannot replace a Drunken Master. There was no father to his style. That means there was no heir to his throne. He took the blueprint with him to the grave. Picture the years that followed. Hip-hop changed. It became more polished. It became more corporate. The rough edges were sanded down. We look back now and we see the hole he left. We see rappers today trying to go viral. They do crazy stunts for attention. They try to be wild, but it feels fake. It feels scripted. Russell Jones did not need a script. He did not need a marketing team. The narrator wonders what would happen if Dirty was alive today. Imagine him with Twitter. Imagine him with Instagram. He would have ruled the internet. The world we live in now, where authenticity is the currency, was made for him. He was years ahead of his time, but he never got to see it. He paid the ultimate price for his fame. He burned the candle at both ends until the wax melted away. The tragedy is not just that he died young. The tragedy is that we consumed his pain as entertainment. We laughed when he told us he was sick. We cheered when he acted out. We watched him fall, and we called it a show. And now, the show is over. The stage is empty. The mic is cold. But the echo remains. He was the one and only, the Ason unique, the big baby Jesus. He was the dirtiest player in the game, but he had the cleanest heart. And in a world full of plastic stars, we will never see another real one like him again. The music fades, the crowd goes home, but the echo never stops. Russell Jones left this world too soon, but he left a footprint that concrete cannot cover. Here is the deal. You can measure a man by his bank account. You can measure him by his record sales. But the real measure of a man is how much he is missed when he is gone. And the world misses the old dirty bastard. He was the heartbeat of the Wu-Tang Clan. RZA was the brain. Jeezy was the genius. But Dirty was the soul. He was the unpredictable spark that turned a rap group into a global fire. Without him, the chemistry changed. The family lost a brother. The stage lost its brightest light. Picture the landscape of music today. You see artists trying to be different. You see them dyeing their hair. You see them acting wild on the internet. They are chasing clout. They are looking for attention. But Russell Jones did not have to chase anything. The attention followed him. He was the father to a style with no father. He created a lane so unique that no one else could drive in it. He was the drunken master of flow. He broke every rule of rhythm and rhyme, and he made it sound perfect. But we must remember the man behind the microphone. He was not just a character. He was a father. He was a friend. He was a generous spirit who would give you the shirt off his back. He played the fool to make us smile. He lowered his own genius to let his brothers shine. That is not just talent. That is love. The narrator asked a heavy question. What would Dirty be doing today? If he was here in the age of social media, he would be a king. The world finally caught up to his energy. We live in a time that craves the raw and the real, and nobody was realer than Russell Jones. But we do not get to see that chapter. We only get the memories. We have the albums, we have the interviews, we have the footage of a man who lived without fear. He taught us that it is okay to be yourself. He taught us that flaws are just part of the design. He taught us that you can come from the bottom and touch the sky. His name was unique. His life was loud, but his exit leaves a quiet space that no one else can fill. The loose cannon is finally at rest. The wild card has played his final hand. Some stories end without closure, but dignity doesn't need applause. What is your favorite memory of the old dirty bastard? Which verse still plays in your head? Share your story in the comments below. Let's keep the legacy alive.